Welcome to An Aries and Pisces Walk Into a Coffee Shop, the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Bridget, she, her.
And I'm Tiffany, she, her. This is a podcast where two friends let go of perfectionism and talk unedited.
I'm just holding on to it. Maybe I should go hang it up. Hello. Our coordinating, non-coordinating outfits.
I mean,
for the day.
You're just psychically linked with your friend you don't understand why.
I just can't believe I had it on. I had it on my body. I buttoned it up, but then I was like, the sleeves are too much. I was too warm and I couldn't do it. But I can't believe that I had the thought that I'm going to put black lipstick on today. And then I was like, no. I was like, I think Tiffany's going to wear black lipstick and then we're going to match.
You are 1,000% correct on my intention. It's just when you are an agent of chaos, you just can't find any of your things.
Yeah.
Or you think you're going to find them. And I checked the three most likely places, and then I looked at the time, and I was like, you know what? Okay, this is just where you're at. Black lipstick is for another day. I hope you can't hear that, speaking of agent of chaos. Ingrid just found a bag to try to climb into, except it's too small for her to fit.
Oh.
She's still trying. So it's loud here. Can you hear that?
Maybe I barely hear it.
Okay, good. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She stopped. She figured out that she couldn't fit in. So now
I like the name.
Check out birds.
Good. It's a good pastime. I like the name Agent of Chaos.
Big trickster vibes.
Yeah. Is my mic still on?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I turned it off because I had to cough, but then I panicked because I was like, am I hitting the right button? Is that anybody else's experience? Just panic about that I am hitting the right buttons?
I mean, probably. I think that makes sense for I always have, it's like intrusive thoughts. That's what it is. I always have intrusive thoughts, but kind of the opposite, where I turn off my mic and then I obsessively check to see if it's still off because I'm really paranoid that I didn't do it, especially in a group. Oh my God. The stress of a group where the mics can be on.
I do that with the mic, or I mean, not the mic, the fucking video, where if I turn my video off, it's very clear that your video is off when it's off, because it's either black or the picture that you set. Right. Yet I still panic.
Oh, interesting. So you're going up another level.
Yeah, I don't. What even? Come on, brain. I don't know.
I mean, intrusive thoughts. That's kind of the whole definition, right?
I guess so. Well, they're doing a great job being intrusive.
I mean, sure. I wish they would not. I wish they would rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to come up here?
I want to see that angel baby. No, maybe later.
Yeah, she acted like she was gonna, and then gave me cold shoulder. I'm not sure what that's about.
Rude.
Hey.
So going back to the matching things, you know what else that brought up the thought of when I was thinking of matching Tiffany? Oh, look at that.
Got frisk face.
Yeah, I was like, she doesn't want to be here. She's got other things to do.
Face.
Yeah,
there was a squirrel out there earlier, so I think she's all riled up.
Yeah.
So as she should be. Matching.
Yeah, matching. And then it brought up a whole host of memories from the past. And I was like, do you remember when we would just randomly go out and show up wearing the same exact thing, like that fucking skull sweater?
Every time. And then we would both look at each other and be like, we haven't worn this in so long. And we took a day to do it. And here we are in our black pants with our black skull sweater. with a red hair. Just twins.
And like not even totally not even trying or even thinking
Mm-mm.
about it. And back then, I think we probably didn't know the the what's the word, like lengths or amounts with which we are psychically connected. We had no
No.
fucking clue back
Mm-hmm.
then. Um but maybe that was like the little hints of it coming out.
Yeah. And here we are, all these long years later, meeting through the internet, states away, still
Wearing
trying to connect.
practically the same thing. Yeah, and then I was thinking about that sweater and just like hot topic days of it all. And um I can't remember when I got rid of that sweater because I was thinking like, would I still wear that today?
Hmm.
And I think that I might, because
I think I would too.
I think that it had gigantic skulls on it, but I thought that it was
Hmm.
very like they were almost like somehow like understated, or like you didn't necessarily
Hmm.
know that they were there at first.
Right, because it was all black and white pattern over the entire thing. And so it was subtle enough, it just looked like part of a pattern. And it
Yeah.
took the brain a second or four looking straight at it to be like, oh, there's skulls in there. Even though they were huge, you're right.
They were
But it did like it felt subtle, I think, because of the overall color scheme of that. And I think I would still wear that too. And I also don't remember why or when I got rid of it. I'm just kind of assuming maybe it was falling apart at some point
Hmm.
because I tend to hoard things that I really like, and I really liked that sweater. So I don't know why I would have given it up unless I really felt like something was going on that I couldn't repair it anymore.
Yeah. I
It's also
I
good.
oh no, I was gonna say that I wonder if I got rid of mine in the 2018 minimalism purge of it all.
Oh yeah, you were getting rid of a lot back then.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the time it went.
That would make sense. What do you feel about that now, looking back?
I think I have a lot of different thoughts and feelings about it now.
Hmm.
Some of the things I wish that I hadn't gotten rid of.
Mm, hmm.
Um, I guess I should preface this and say what it is, but yeah, that was so 2018 was, I don't know if it started in like 2017-ish when I
Hmm.
like discovered minimalism and the minimalists, and they were playing this like that 30-day
Oh right.
minimalism game. And
Hmm.
that's when I was like, I really wanted to do that because
Hmm.
I didn't back then I didn't realize the like the ADHD-ness of it all for me, and like how important
Oh,
it
that's
is,
right.
yeah, to like have a container with which to
Hmm.
like do something in. I didn't realize how important that was to me, but I knew I had like an inkling of it. So I thought if I do this in a group, I'm going to be more likely to do it. And this is something
Right.
that I really like believe in and want to do. So that's when I decided to like facilitate it
Yeah.
through Facebook. And then I did 1 month and I was like, let's do it for the entire fucking year. So I did it for the entire year of 2018. So
Hmm.
that's on like day one, you get rid of one thing. Day two, you get rid of two things, and so on.
Hmm.
That was also before I learned about KonMari.
Oh right,
And
that came
yeah,
later.
yeah. And I kind of wished that I had the KonMari concepts
Hmm.
before this, because I went into this minimalism game being like, yeah, I realized how much stuff I had, and I started very quickly realizing how much anxiety I had, like, due
Hmm.
to my stuff, and so I kind of got, like, a rush out of getting rid of things, and I just wanted to get rid of everything,
Gotcha.
and then later on when I learned the KonMari of that, like, um giving everything a place and a home, and really like working with the energy of the things that you have, and like honoring them and keeping the things in your life that bring you joy. That to me was a very different vibe than just get rid of everything because it's causing you anxiety.
Sure.
So, um, so yes, I got rid of probably more things than, well, I don't know. I don't necessarily like regret doing it. It had a huge
Hmm.
impact on me, and there are a
Right.
few things that I'm like, "Oh, I kind of wish that I hadn't gotten rid of that." But also, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm okay without it. I still have, right, the memories of these sweaters. I still have
Hmm.
photos of us in the sweaters, right?
Aw.
Like, um, so I have things like that. So if I do, like when I have come up against something that maybe like I miss,
Hmm.
I can try to just like recall memories of it and have that be okay.
Oh, that's a really nice frame to have. I like that. I think I've talked to you at length about my issues in holding on to things, which is why I was really curious to like hear your reflections on it now. And is that so grounded and balanced? Like, yeah, of course. That sounds right. Like you learned a lot about yourself, and
Yeah.
I think, well, I've seen you be very intentional then with what you do bring into your
Mhm.
home ever after, which was really nice to see. Um, and I just haven't quite figured out what my sweet spot is, what my
Mm.
magic trick will be, because I love the, there are like, I love maximalism. I love
Mm.
rooms that look like little museums. And like every time you turn your head, you look at a shelf and you like see something new because there's just like so much to look at.
Mhm.
And that shows in my home, except I don't have places designated for all of the things. So then, like, I have, like, I mean, sometimes I even think of them as like my little altars where I like, there'll be like a corner where like all the things that are there are grouped there for a reason. And I think I could probably stand giving them a little bit more attention or updates. Um, but the fact that they're there feels cozy. But then I have like the extra, the overspill, the things that I just kind of move
Hmm.
around from place to place because it's just always kind of in the way. But I don't then get rid of it.
Mm.
And sometimes it's things I do use a lot, but I just like haven't figured out how to settle into a place is the way that I've been talking about it a lot. Is just I, in all the places I've ever lived, I just never quite felt settled.
Mm.
And it's something I've been contemplating a lot for the last couple of years as I've lived alone. And now that I'm looking at another move to another apartment space and thinking like, okay, what goes, what stays, what can I finally get rid of right now? And it's a weird process. I'm finding it very challenging.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, you have moved around a lot.
Oh, so many times. Yeah, I was moving like every year, every other year for a while there. And now I'm doing it again. I only lived this place for 2 years, and I realized I don't want to know. I don't know if I should say it's a problem, but I was like, wow, I've been here for 2 years already. That's crazy. And I was just like, that's like normal for people to be somewhere 5, 6, 7 years, and me like 2 years is kind of like where I start to max out. I usually move every year, and I don't. And part of me, I think, is, well, I mean, part of it is circumstances for sure, like jobs or the place that I'm at isn't working out for one reason, or oh, I'm saying the thing out loud. It's
What?
that the thing we were talking about last time where I got to fuck around and find out.
Oh.
Where it's just like I'll leap onto a place and try it and just be like, yeah, no, this doesn't feel good, and so then I leap to another place. And for a bit, that was sometimes my doing, and sometimes I was just kind of riding the wave of who I was living with, or um, job opportunities were definitely a thing, and like, moving from state to state, obviously. But this time, the living alone part of it all was there was so much anxiety around that. And I don't necessarily regret the place I chose because I think it gave me a lot and it was a great place for me to learn some of the things that I needed to learn. But also, a lot went wrong that I just could not have predicted.
Mm.
And now that I'm saying that out loud, I think it was like the hard way to learn that I can handle things, even when they're super not ideal.
Yeah.
And then here I
That
am again, learning things when they're super not ideal because because like I've known didn't want to live here for a while because of all the issues I was having with like maintenance and management and just the age of the space has been an issue, just things, breaking, going wrong. But then what spurred me into action was like another like external thing where they're like, hey, all those problems that you have and the things that we're not fixing, now we're raising your rent, and we're going to add all these fees and all this like uh started stacking up, and I was just like, oh, so I'm going to pay how much to live where and deal with what? And all the while I'm watching them like do landscaping, and I was like, oh, that's great that you're putting all that money into those flowers that are going to die because the squirrels are eating them. Like there's just holes everywhere. Anyway, done venting. So now I'm just like, oh, okay, time for another different experiment into the great unknown. And then I'm like looking around and being like, wow, I wish I would have taken that minimalism thing more seriously.
Well, it's never too late to start, but I have a few things for you. I love that you
Mhm.
brought up maximalism and that you love that because that is also too like that's something that I see on like Pinterest or you see
Mhm.
people's, like upscale apartments in New York City, that like city vibe with all the just filled with like antique, like retro things and or
Mhm.
just like a fucking like antique store. I love
Yeah.
I love that. I love looking at that stuff. I love it. I just wouldn't be able to live in it. But I love it so much that that's one of those things that I had to realize
Yeah.
that I love this thing. I love to look at it. I really appreciate it, but it's not for me in practice.
Something you want to visit.
Yeah, I would
Mhm.
love to visit it. I'm very inspired by it. When other people can do it and live like that, I'm very inspired by that. Like, I think that's super cool. But when I tried to do it in practice, it was I didn't realize how much that was affecting me in not a positive way
Right.
until I started, like, minimalizing things, um so I think for me, that's really interesting to notice that, to, like, recognize that and to accept it, because
Mhm.
that acceptance is the fucking hard part, um,
Right.
of the, like, "Well, I wanna live like that, like, I wanna do that, I like that," but it just really, like, isn't working for me, um, so I think that that is a very interesting thing for me to think about, and also I've been watching a lot of Queer Eye lately,
Yeah.
and I'm caught up to the current New Orleans season,
Mhm.
and, the one that I just watched the other day, um, I thought that this was really interesting. It was somebody who was a really intense sports fan, and they
This is a really good episode.
have you seen it?
I cried through that whole episode.
Okay, yeah, 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 same. So, she had all that stuff, but then, like, the thing that Bobby did for her was set
Right.
up that office space that was, like, here you have like these things that are out, and then you still have all the rest of your stuff, and you can like rotate it out and like switch it
Mhm.
out. And that made me think of how I do my like quarterly refreshes with like my
Mhm.
digital workspace and then my like actual workspace, my like whiteboard here. And yeah, I move things around, like I pick out new crystals, I just like rearrange things and like the vibes that I want to call in. And I wonder if that would be a thing that would help you with your like, oh, I have these other things that I really like. And maybe, yeah, like, do you think that some of it is like time to let go of it, but maybe some of it is like, oh no, I actually want to keep this, and maybe like
Yeah, rotate it around. I really like that idea. And I think part of it is too just unlearning that scarcity mindset. And I'm really struggling with that, I
mm,
realize. And it makes sense to me logically and emotionally, which is why it's hard to like refute. Because, like,
mm,
ancestrally, holding on to stuff was really important. Making things stretch was really important. And there was always like this money anxiety, like thrumming through my family that still is there. Even though, like, um, yeah, just that scarcity mindset being learned. And I'm trying to reframe it in the, what is the, maybe it's also tied to the like, I am capable, or just like, well, I can do without that thing. Like, what's
mhm.
the worst that can happen? I'm slightly inconvenienced, or like what? And it's so interesting to like contemplate, because like my brain doesn't like those questions, because it's like, well, let's not find out. Like, we're anxious. And it also doesn't help that I'm incredibly sentimental. So there are
Mm,
things where I'm like, I don't need this, I don't want this. However, it was given to me, or like I have something attached to it, and that makes it a lot harder
yeah.
to. I've gotten a little better, and again, with having to learn things the hard way, I had like a box full of like childhood decor type things from like my childhood bedroom that got destroyed in a flood.
Mm,
And there's just no saving it. It was mold. Yeah, it was just, there's no saving it. And I'm still sad about it, but at the same time, like those things weren't necessarily my vibe anymore. Like they are my vibe, but not something I would want in my home, if that makes
mhm,
sense. Like, and because I was so sentimental and I was very attached to them growing up, I couldn't get rid of them. I couldn't get rid of them. They moved from apartment to house, and sometimes they made it on a shelf and sometimes they didn't. And then when I was in my last living situation, before this apartment, I was like in a smaller space, with not much of my own furniture. And so a lot of my stuff was just in storage. And then the flood happened.
mm,
And I thought that stuff was safe because it was in a plastic container, but there was a small crack in the corner. So I was thinking, oh, I don't have to worry about that box because it's sealed. And I dealt with all the like cardboard boxes that were something I had to deal with immediately. And here, mold just bloomed all through what I thought was protected. And it was like such a mind trip to be like, oh, because there was like artwork in there that I had saved since like I was a kid. And when I say kid, I mean like tweens. So like I was a little
mm,
bit older. So they like meant a lot to me because I was going through a lot and processing through art at the time. And then like more childhood things that I just like moved from place to place. And it was so wild to be like, well, there's like nothing I can do about this. And it just has to be let go of. And I'm okay. Like I'm still a little sad about it sometimes, but my day to day isn't affected.
yeah.
And yet, present tense, I'm like looking at something and I'm like, but what if?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I was gonna say I concur. Um, yeah, I feel like I feel very similarly about things. And there are, yeah, there are things that I did get rid of like that, like art that I drew that I was like really proud of that I
Yeah.
at that time I was like, I don't need to keep this anymore. And then I remember
Mhm.
it you know, and I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't gotten rid of that. But also, like,
Yeah.
I still have the memory of it, or like some things I just took pictures of.
Hmm.
And I'm now thinking, like, wouldn't that be cute to make like, do you remember photo albums? Like physical
Yeah,
photo albums?
I do remember those.
I keep thinking, like, wouldn't it be nice, like, to make photo albums? I love looking through stuff like that. And that is something that helps me with my memory. I have a lot
Yeah,
of
the
like,
reinforcement is really helpful.
yeah, like memory recall is very challenging, but when I can see a photo, I can remember that like photo, I can remember that like time. And so yeah, I thought that might be a nice idea to make like actual photo albums of things, but I have been thinking about that probably for years. And have I made one yet?
Well, maybe one day
No.
you'll get hyper focus and then that'll be your hobby and then you'll have like 15.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe. Look at that belly. What an angel.
She's still a little frisky, but she's curious about the laying down while we talk now. I was a little worried because I don't know if you heard her, but she was causing quite a ruckus. She kept on like running back and forth and like jumping up. Do you see my eyes darting through?
Oh.
Probably because I'm like side eyeing this cat, wondering if she was gonna cause a big issue or not.
I didn't notice.
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
she's
you calming
fine.
down now? I think Ingrid's also a maximalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange just to think um about um the memory thing. I think is really, I've always been like that, which is so funny to think about because I remember being a kid being really attached to things that brought me a memory and being really worried about forgetting. And now as an
Mm,
adult looking back, I'm like, well, that makes sense because it's like being so anxious because like since I was very little, very anxious, very overwhelmed by being alive in a body on Earth. And that's not good for memory formation, turns out. And
yeah.
if you don't sleep well, which I never have been a good sleeper, also not great for memory retention. And then it didn't help that, like, my sister had a really good memory for her childhood. It has since, there's like a time in puberty where she stopped having the best memory. But like, she remembers like very like crisp details about her childhood. She has like a sense of like the timeline of her childhood really like well. She remembers a lot of the people were around at what ages. And I don't have that. I have like vague impressions of like, oh, these people, and like there's a lot of people that were around that I don't remember. And some of them were her friends, and she was like, really, you don't remember them? Like they were around all the time. And I was just like, it sounds vaguely familiar, but like I
Mhm.
don't, I have just vague impressions. And so I grew up kind of like having this idea that like my memory was bad because
Mm,
she'd be shocked by the stuff I didn't remember. And honestly, that's how the journaling started. Is I was afraid of
mm.
forgetting stuff. So I started writing down a lot of things just so I would like kind of remember what I was like and what I was doing and like who I was talking to around certain periods of time.
How insightful to recognize that about yourself and to be like, okay, I'm going to do this practice now to help me out.
Yeah, it sounds crazy when I say it that way because I don't remember having it like that thought. Like I was 8. So like I wasn't like I'm gonna have a practice. It was just like because like I even before 8, like I used to like write stuff down and like doodle, but I never did it like in one place and like consistently. And it was around 8 where I was just like, this is like I was very intentional. Like I was gave my diaries like names and things and like write basically letters like to the diary from
Wow.
me. And then it like became a practice and it did make the anxiety of like not knowing what was going on feel a little less present, and
Yeah.
I just
Would you
never stopped doing it.
like Dear Diary?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, I dear diaried a lot, and then like I said, like throughout the ages, like I started like giving my diaries like names where I'd like dear whatever it was at the time. And I don't remember when I stopped doing that, but I remember I did that for a while, where it was like letter format.
Wow. I always thought letters were so beautiful. Like sending a letter in the mail with the whole the like officialness of it, like the
Mhm.
format. Do you remember learning that in school?
I
Like the
do.
format of writing a letter
Uh-huh.
and where to put like the address and like who you're saying it to, what and the date and everything. And then I think that I think that's an art form. I used to love like letters in the mail.
I used to do that a lot when I was a kid because I would write letters to my gram because she lived out of state. Well, we lived out of state. We moved from the
Hmm.
state my gram lived. And so I was really little and I'd spent a lot of time with my grandma. Um, and so, yeah, my whole childhood, I wrote her like little letters using the whole format and everything. And like, I even remember when I was like old enough to write on the envelope and I felt so mature.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like how to address an envelope. Do you think that these probably aren't things that kids are learning in school today?
I hadn't thought about that, but probably not. But at the same time, like, we still get mail, but like, it was a lesson plan.
Yeah.
Like, we had to know that. I feel like I should ask my nieces and nephews if they learned that.
I feel like that's also why um, emails were kind of challenging at first because I was like, oh, this is a letter. I should address this like a
Mhm.
letter.
I still have that urge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
I think we're really showing our age here, but I also think it's a beautiful thing.
mm-hmm. It makes me think of like grandparents or parents whose kids will screenshot their text messages and post them on the internet, where it's just like showing that mom texted and then like at the end of the text it says love mom, like as if you didn't know it
Oh,
was mom texting you, or like grandma just being like, it's grandma here, like
yeah.
I it's a little bit of that babushka moment. I'm like, oh no, is this the evolution of that? Elder millennial.
That's sweet and also funny. Yeah. So I wonder like what are those things that like we're doing? So it's definitely having overly formal emails.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the things.
And I've experimented with being less formal about certain email exchanges, and it feels so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've done it, but it feels weird.
Yes, indeed. Life is so weird.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's so weird to think like, because you said the words 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and it was strange to be like, that feels like a whole lifetime ago, but also not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But so much has changed in that amount of time.
For sure. And that's 5 years, which also sometimes like 5 years sounds like, oh, that wasn't that long. But then 5 years sounds like, oh my God, that's so long. But then I
Time
was
isn't
thinking,
real.
it does,
It's just a concept.
it doesn't make any sense. And then I was thinking back to like working at Hot Topic, and I was like, oh my God, that was in 2013, in which
Mhm.
case I was like, that's 10 years ago. That
Oh,
is
such a trip.
insane. Like
Oh,
to
yeah.
think back at myself and
Hmm.
my life, so different.
Oh, yes. And I think that is part of why it also feels, how do I want to put this? I was thinking about something we were texting about earlier about like perception. Because you were telling me like the way that you perceived me, and then
Mm.
I was thinking about the ways I perceived you. And then it kind of led me down this like trip of memory lane because I've gotten this message before. My mom's actually really good at reminding me of this, where um, she's kind of mystified by the things that I do.
Hmm.
Like she doesn't understand where it came from, how I'm doing it, and then like she knows about my anxiety, and I've been over the years getting more frank about exactly what living with that is like. And so she's like, and then you just like go and do stuff anyway. I forget what it must look like on the outside looking
Mm.
in because I know inside how much I'm not having a great time or worried about things or limiting myself, like not taking chances or feeling stuck a lot. That's been a
Hmm.
big theme throughout my life, is just feeling stagnant and unsure of how to get out of it. And yet I do. Um, and it made me think about how you always seem like you're just on to the next thing and enthusiastic and doing so much. And then inside, you're just like, wow, this took forever for this thing to happen. Or like, oh, I don't feel like anything's moving. And yet on the outside, it just looks like this dynamic, like whirlwind of activity and learning. And like, I don't even know how to put this where it's like, it's as if, oh, you know what the sound is, the sound is like shuffling cards, where it's just like
Oh,
I look over at like what you're up to and it feels like the sound of shuffling cards, where there's just so much going on all the time, and you're just like on to the next thing, like exploring this other thing, and like not abandoning the other thing, somehow integrating like little pieces of how of what you took, and then just like running headlong into something else, and it's like dizzying. And then I
wow.
know you're over there being like, well, just not what I thought it was gonna be. Like, we're
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Or like the agony and what feels like pain
Uh-huh.
on the inside of my body that I literally can't do anything for another or a thing for another second.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it feels like pain, like I'm gonna die, like if I have to continue doing this thing again. And then also agonizing over the like the judgments and things
Yes.
that from like society and everything, and that I'm, reinforcing in my brain of like not sticking with things or, changing my mind too many times. But might I say that that was the best compliment ever, that you could be like that the sound of the essence of me, how I move through the world, is that of shuffling cards. That is so sexy to me. Like,
Good sound.
I'm just thinking like, "Oh my god, should I pull a card for us right now?" Because, like,
Okay.
especially this fucking deck, I love shuffling it. I love shuffling it, and it sounds so good. So, the Pythia Botanica Oracle, I'll pull us a card.
Okay, great.
Um,
I'm excited to see what comes up. I always love the
should I
messages
see
from this
if
one.
I can, so you can watch me shuffle here. Oh,
Mm.
look, you can see Felton in the background.
Aw, a
My
cameo.
my little squish. Felton is excellent self-care. I picked her up earlier and just like squeezed her, and
Oh.
that was just a really sweet moment. So I wonder how well this will come through.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I love that sound.
Yeah, I love shuffling these cards.
That's very satisfying.
And they're the perfect size too. Okay. All right. This is a good one. There's not many cards in this deck that I pull that I'm like, this isn't a good one. There are some that scare me a little bit, but most of them, I love. Okay. So we got Marigold, which is outshine apathy, a card of empowerment when calloused, cold forces shadow your gaze. Emit the fervor of your spirit in spite of all vulnerability. Build a pyre from their coals. I just pulled this one the other day for myself.
Build a fire from their coals.
A pyre, Pyre. Did I say that? Yeah.
I really like that.
A card of empowerment.
I've been thinking about that word a lot too, so it's nice that it came up here. I think I've spent a lot of my life feeling disempowered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the old adage, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, that I hate.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, that's happening.
but I'm working with anyway because it's probably why I hate it, is because I guess what I'm saying is I like that message delivery better through Marigold versus the stale phrase of
Mm-hmm.
it's happening for you. I
Mm-hmm.
feel because I think that's like the empowerment angle.
The way that I've been looking at that lately too, because that has also been coming up for me,
Mm.
is because yeah, that phrasing it's not sexy. So what I've been
No.
trying to to do is like, okay, so here's the situation. It really sucks. Um, More of like, how can I make the most of it, or what can I get out of it, or
Mhm.
how can I look at it in a different way, or maybe like, what is this doing for me or giving to me? Like, and
Mhm.
it's more of like a, yeah, like, what am I gonna do about it? What am I gonna do with it? How's it gonna, like,
Mhm.
I don't know. It feels like more of a choice, and that feels more like empowerment.
Right. Exercising an agency through something.
Agency. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the things that I've been thinking about a lot. And then getting stuck in the wow, but I'm just so tired. Maybe I don't want to do. And then I have
Yes.
a pout and maybe a rest, and then I go and do something.
You're doing We're doing a great fucking job. Let's just end every episode with we're doing a great fucking job.
I think that we and everyone else does need to hear that more often. We are doing a great job,
Yeah.
even when it doesn't feel good.
Especially when it doesn't.
Yes.